So is shooting on expired film really worth it? In today's video we'll explore the pros and the cons of shooting on expired film. So this video's got a little bit of a backstory. So when I started doing this YouTube channel again and shooting more film, a lot of my photographer friends were like, I shoot digital now, I'm never going to use all my old film, do you want it? And I got given loads of film. And so I've been able to do all the film photography on this channel for pretty much free, and it's all been on expired film. Except the other day, right, you can guess where this is going, I did some model tests for a friend of mine. And I ended up with the distinct honour of being able to go back to the model agency and say, you know that colour film that I shot? Well, it came out like this. So I know it's not the camera, because the camera shot rolls of black and white that came out perfectly before and after, and I know it's not the chemicals because they did the same. So it has to be the film. Now they say that film will keep for decades after its expiry date if it's kept properly, which means if it's kept cool and dry. People say if you're going to keep film for a long period of time, keep it in the freezer. But whatever you do, don't keep film in a hot environment, and don't keep film in a moist environment. So I decided to do a little test to see if it really was worth the risk shooting expired film. I took 2 rolls of C200 which expired in January of 2019. I've put 1 roll on the radiator for 7 days, and I very carefully put the other roll in the fridge. Yay! So here's our radiator roll. We kept it on the radiator for 10 days in the end and not 7, at roughly 50 degrees C. And here's our other roll of C200, which expired in January 2019, but these have been kept in the fridge and not on the radiator. I've also got a packet of E100, which expired in 2007. A packet of Fuji Chrome, which expired in 2002. 5.4 FP4, which expired in 2007. And some 5.4 Polaroid, which expired in 2001. So we're going to shoot all these and see what results we get. Okay, you're sharp now. So this Polaroid film expired in 2001. So we're going to see what we get. Okay, it's been a minute and a half. We're going to find out what we got with our double exposure attempt. It's so pink! Oh no! That's clearly pink. That would be a really nice double exposure though. You can just see it coming through there. Camera's on the piss. I reckon maybe if I develop it for a bit longer, it might be alright. Tweak it a little bit. You gotta keep it warm, otherwise it gets sad. Okay, for this Polaroid I doubled the developing time, kept it warm, and it's much better, except it's gone a bit funny on the left. That might have been how I held it. When I say Polaroid, in this case I actually mean the Fuji FP100C instant film. It's just that Polaroid's become the generic term for instant film. In this case, as the film's aged, it's clearly taken on a very heavy magenta cast. So I've just popped into Photoshop to put some green back into it and show you what it might have looked like when the film was still in date. So this is a roll of film that I bought at a professional camera store that expired in January of 2019, that's been kept in a fridge the whole time. Oh, I went too far. And all my hair got stuck. And this is broken. 10-day radiator roll, here we go. Try doing your pre-Raphaelite sort of extreme posing. So with the Polaroid and the 35mm films out of the way, it was time to try the medium format film. Both of these films are transparency or E6 films, which, if you believe what you read on the internet, don't keep well after their sell-by date. The first was a Kodak E100, which expired in 2007, and the second was a Fuji Provia, which expired in 2002. And of course, no pre-Raphaelite styled shoot is ever complete without some large format photography. So I thought I'd shoot some 5.4 FP4, which expired in 2007 before we went home. The films are all exposed normally, but they were developed to the rule of thumb that for every 5 years a film has passed its expiry date, you need to push process it 1/2 stop. So the best results came from the 2007 Ilford FP4. Now black and white films tend to keep much better than colour films, and slower films tend to keep better than faster films. This stuff was pushed 1 stop and it came out as if it had been shot on fresh film. I love shooting 5.4 and I'm really happy with the results of these. Now the C200 experiment gave some great results. The roll that was in the fridge came out pretty much as you'd expect. And at first glance, the roll that was on the radiator came out pretty well too. It's only when you look far more closely and you look at the grain and you see how the grain has started to break up, and the fact that there are fireflies starting to appear in the image, that you actually realise that after just 10 days, this film has been really affected by just a moderate heat. So it really goes to show that the real wild card when you're buying expired film is the way the film's been kept. This is the Fuji Provia from 2002. Now the transparency films have clearly been affected by their age. As you can see, it's got a very heavy magenta cast to it, and it seems to be lacking in dynamic range with the skin tones blowing out very quickly. The 2007 Kodak E100 still has its dynamic range, but it also has a very heavy magenta cast, though not as bad as the Provia. So if you want to try your hand at shooting expired film, I recommend that you'd stick to colour and black and white negative, favour low ISOs over faster ones, and buy your film in batches so that you can at least test your films before you go out and shoot something important on them. So is it really worth shooting expired film? Well, I think it all just comes down to price. And to finish this video off, I've got a basic formula. So if you're thinking of buying colour negative film that's expired, or C41, I reckon that the value of that film should decrease by 50% from the price of a fresh roll every 10 years. Otherwise, I think you're just paying too much for it. If you're thinking of shooting E6 film, I think it's a bit more extreme because it's that much more unpredictable, and the cost of a roll should decrease by 75% from the cost of a fresh roll every 10 years. Now, black and white's really interesting because when I did my research, I found that actually black and white film doesn't drop that much in value after it's expired, so you might as well just shoot fresh film, which is quite ironic given that it's the best performer out of our tests. And instant film, well, instant film's its own little market, I get that, but at £85 for a box of 5x4 FP100C that's up to 25 years out of date, I think you're just better off buying some fresh negative film. So I hope this video has been useful. If it has, like, share and subscribe, as always. And I'll see you next time. Until then, happy shooting.